Hey, what's going on? This is Justin from the Survival of the Artist podcast. This is episode 4. This is a special one because I'm doing it live in a hotel, face-to-face with a person, which doesn't usually happen. I've never met this person before, but I've known about him for a very long time. We just recorded a verse in his closet. I didn't. I watched. His name is KJ52.
Oh, you said live in the hotel as opposed to dead in the hotel?
Right. We are living and breathing here.
Yeah. I always, when people say, yeah, we're live, as opposed, I always think the opposite, like in a very probably twisted, morbid sense. But yeah, I'm glad we're both alive. It's always a plus. It makes for better radio.
It does.
If you want the zombie podcast, it's
the
it's a
Walking
couple
Dead
podcasts down, yeah.
Walking Dead podcast. I'm sure it's much.
That was a celebration.
We have a soundboard. I think we've made it. The big budget. You should see the setup here.
Hold on, I could switch to the sound effects.
Okay.
This is when you crack a dad joke.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Ladies and gentlemen, live from the podcast. That's my monster truck voice.
KJ has hijacked the podcast. This is now the KJ podcast featuring Justin.
One night only, monster trucks.
It's because this
10 monsters, 2 trucks.
It's because this guy is from Florida. He's in the South. We don't do that over here.
That's right, you wouldn't do monster. You guys have never done it. Yeah, you don't even have space to run a monster truck down the street.
Yeah, we got the monster truck moms driving their Escalades.
That's true.
We are in Newark, New Jersey right now, which is the epitome of pleasant pastures.
Absolutely, yes. White picket fences.
Fried chicken and pizza.
Fried chicken and pizza apparently is the national cuisine of Newark.
Right. I'm sure the fried chicken's delicious. I wouldn't eat the pizza.
Yeah.
But for the people who don't know, and I'm sure most people know, who are you? What do you do? And what is your claim to fame?
I am a Christian hip-hop artist. I've been a Christian hip-hop artist for almost 18 years full-time. I am a teaching pastor back home in Cape Coral, Florida. I am a father of 3. I'm a husband of almost 20 years. Let's see, I'm a lover of all things nerdy hip-hop, and I have a special affinity for Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Chick-fil-A, and Krispy Kreme.
That's very
None
important.
of those are good for me, and so I don't partake very often. But
It's very important. We just got our first Chick-fil-A in New York City.
I was just reading the New Yorker piece about this.
I overheard you.
Yeah. And where I live, Chick-fil-A is just, it's a staple.
It's gospel.
Yeah. As a child, I thought it was Chick-fil-A.
Right.
Of course, you know, I am a product of the Florida educational system, so not much to say about that. But I'm a Florida. One of the I think there's like 3 of us in the whole state actually born and raised there. Most people just come there or they live there for a year and they claim it. You're all liars and you're clogging up our highways. So how dare you? But yeah, other than that, I love my life, love my job, and love the God that gives me the opportunity to do that.
Hey, there you go.
Thank you.
That's solid.
Sound effects going.
He's got his sound effects ready. So so
it's totally ill-timed.
This is the worst podcast. So I've spoken to this guy so many times.
Can I tell you something? Hold on. Can I tell you something? When I'm in staff meetings with my church, when it gets really low and boring, and if my lead pastor says something good, I'm like,
this is why it took you so long to get an office. So you've been around for what, 20 years or so? 20 years
I've been doing Christian hip hop longer than 20 years, but my first national release was in 2000. I had a independent project with another guy in 97. And then I did my own project as King J Mac back in the day. That was
King
94.
J Mac.
So just really depends where you want to pick up the timeline. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, about 20 years.
20 years. And 97 was what? Sons of Intellect, right?
Yes.
So I'm asking because you've sort of been around during different peaks and valleys
Absolutely.
Of yourself and in
Yes.
music. So at the peak of your career, like how big were you?
That's the thing. Like, people say this all the time. Like, anytime I see a post, they'll be like, "Oh man, you were the man back in the day." Like, I'm like, If I was, apparently I did not get the memo because whatever was happening then, I'm still doing.
Right.
The crowd sizes have not really changed per se. If you want to, it depends on how you want to judge it. If you want to judge it by record sales, then yes, absolutely, I'm a shell of what I used to be. But as far as like opportunities or doors that were open or places to play, so much of that honestly is very perception.
Right.
Because if I can tell you from the guy who's on the other side, there was never really a point where I was like, yeah, I made it. It has never not been an uphill battle. Whenever the era that someone would want to say, oh, that's when you were killing it, man, like that's when you were doing it. In my opinion, I could tell you a bunch of things behind the scenes that would make me feel I was not
Right.
killing it or doing it. I can say from a career standpoint, there was a turn maybe about 2-3 years in, but that's really where I just learned how to do it better. And
Right.
I was finally making a profit as opposed to getting my car evicted. I mean, my car repossessed and my house evicted. So if you want to say when did I make it, I would say maybe 2 years in, but that just meant that I was able to earn a living
Well, I
salary.
feel like
And I can tell you that salary wasn't great. Anyway,
the salary is not great for anyone who wants to be creative.
right, absolutely.
Because journalism is just about the
Yes.
same.
Yes.
And for me, someone who always wanted to be a famous rock star one day, oh, what do you want to fall back on? Journalism. Wow, so you just don't want any nice things in life.
Right.
But I feel like you were part of that influx of Tooth and Nail in the early 2000s, even though technically you
true.
weren't on Tooth and Nail,
No.
but when they were really popping off with all the bands, with your Project 86s and your and all those people, and you were kind of in that mold because you were on what, BEC?
I was
right?
on BC, but can I tell you, I was so far removed from that world. I was still doing basically what I had always been doing.
Right.
I was not a part of the Tooth and Nail world. The only overlaps were maybe from a collaborative standpoint, and that just maybe came because of the nature of being on.
Well, you were on all rock songs with Trevor and TFK and
Yeah, but
and,
you know what?
and Pillar and Rob.
But you know what the funny thing is about that is that I met TFK when they were still signed to DJ Dove's label, like in 2000, my first record. I met them at a GMA. I took one look at them, like these rap rock wannabe Canadians. I'd never do a song with them because I didn't like rap rock. I thought it was a diluting.
and then he made an album.
Exactly right.
That's a different podcast.
Totally different podcast, but. I looked at him and I judged him like I normally did because I was this purist backpacker. It wasn't until I actually listened to Trevor rap on his first record that I was like, oh, this guy is a rapper with guitars.
Right.
That's what won me over. So it wasn't like the TFK thing. We actually both got our deals with Tooth and Nail at the same time. So it wasn't like then it opened up. It was like those were people that I had already built relationships with. Same thing with Pillar. Like my first tour, we did a show with Pillar in the middle of Kansas somewhere. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it was just happened to be by 2-3 years in. He wanted me on a song that T-Bone was supposed to be on, T-Bone Flake, and that's how I wound up.
The Boney Bone
The
Corleone.
Boney Bone Corleone was.
But you got the real Italian, though. So I guess.
You know, a lot of those things, anything that ever happened from a collaborative standpoint was generally very organic and very mutual and not forced by any means. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Even the song I did with Emery years later.
You did a song. What song did you do with Emery?
I did. Emery is on my yearbook album.
They're on your album.
They're on my
album.
album.
You had Toby.
Right. Toby sang a hook, wrote a hook, and sang a hook. But that was a weird situation where I think we had both played Spirit West Coast, and they had seen me perform, and everybody at Tooth and Nail was like, yo, Toby really likes you and wants to do a song with you. And I'm like, that's not going to work. I'm not going to, like, me and their styles. Right. I'm like, how would this even work? They're like, no, you should. Everybody was like, you should really try it. No, you should try it.
You can really sing, though, too.
Yeah, and my DJ, who was, like, straight out of Brooklyn, Puerto Rican guy, just straight up, like, hip-hop to the T, was a huge Emery fan.
That's strange.
Exactly. And he's like, no, you should really do it. I'm like, what? Even you think I should do it? And again, when I that's when I was like, again, I have my own conditions that I tend to be wrong in. So I was like, who knows? Let's try it. He wrote a great chorus. He had a great idea behind it. It was a real personal story. We never even talked on the phone. It was all through Instant Messenger. And the song was like a minor hit, you know?
R.I.P. Instant Message.
I know, right? That sounds so Sounds so '07 to say that.
AIM. That's how we all cut our careers.
That's true. I did a lot of file exchanges.
That's how I dated all my girlfriends in high school.
Yeah.
Right through AIM.
Right. It was the original slipping DMs.
Okay, so aside from sliding in people's AIM DMs,
I guess it all was a direct message if you think about it.
Yeah. You kind of alluded to how long it took you to get to that point in your career. So how do you keep that momentum going? Because that must be exhausting. And I know someone like you were putting out an album like every year in the early 2000s.
No.
Or every year and a half.
I think I probably went, well, they say you have your whole life to make your first album, and then you got about a year to make your second. So Seventh Ave came out in 2000, but it had actually been started in 98.
Okay.
So it was one of those deals where they took what I was already doing, just added a few more songs. 2002, I think, was collaborations. 2003 was Pronounced 5-2. And the reason why they were so close is because collaborations was doing so well, the label was like, oh, we need another album. That's really where it comes down to, is where the label, if they see momentum, they want another project right away.
And that was my first album of yours. It was collaborations.
For a lot of people it was. And then a lot of people went back and got Seventh Ave.
Right.
Or some people came in and Pronounced 5-2. That actually, and every record kind of progressively sold more and became more popular. But the weird thing was, I actually really thrived on making music. Like, making music was never a problem because I was always writing down song ideas. I was always writing down concepts. I loved making music. Like, I got such a joy out of being in the studio. So it never was really a problem. And there would be times where I'm like, I'm not ready. And then as soon as I'd say that, inspiration would hit, or something would happen, or a concept would happen, and then me and Todd would have a nice vibe, and then, yeah.
Todd Collins. Legends.
Yes. Mr. Collins. Yep.
It's funny, Pronounced 5-2, how you open it, 5-2, brown hair, eyes are blue.
Right.
But when I was like starting out rapping, that was always something that I felt like I needed to make an introduction like. and I would say like whatever, and I'd be like almost 6'2",
right,
clocking in, a Puerto Rican Jew, like something like that. I would hit that rhyme scheme together, and I always thought it was like, all right, KJ went in with the brown hair, eyes blue, and I would go like under 6'2".
Thing was, I was like, I lost a bunch of weight like right after that, so I always felt like I was living a lie. Because 200 pounds is not healthy for me. Like, that's about 10 pounds heavier than I should be. And I actually went to like 210.
What are you, like 6'3"?
No, man, I'm not even 6'2". I'm like 6'1", 3/4.
Okay, so then that's what I am.
Yeah.
You just give a tall appearance.
It's my presence.
You have this this aura of an.
Plus, I wear Air Maxes.
Artist.
That's a couple inches right there. That probably helps.
Yeah, well, when I got collaborations, I was probably about 5'2".
There you go.
So
yeah,
I was just always looking up.
I can never understand people who are always like really disappointed in my height when they met me. I'm like, it's not to scale. Like, if you see me on the cover, and I was always sitting down.
That they think that they're always like, oh, you're tall.
But is 6'2" really that tall?
But who gets disappointed with someone being tall? I feel like you'd get disappointed with someone being short.
No, people generally were like, "Oh, dude, I didn't think you're gonna be this tall." I'm like, "What do you want me to do, man? Like, come back later when I'm shorter?" Or,
well, it's funny. Speaking of Emery, I met the guitar player Matt.
Yeah,
I met him, and he's like 6'4".
Oh, really?
And I was like, "Geez." I was like, "You're huge."
See, I spent most of my life pretty short. Right, I was like the late bloomer. I was very much a late bloomer. So, but my feet grew first. So, like, imagine having this same exact like size 12 foot, but like being 5'5", 5'6". Even when I was playing football, like I was like maybe 5'10", maybe hitting 6. But I was so disproportionate that I would make a great catch and then immediately trip. Like, I was just it's really awkward, and it's weird because I'm taller than both my parents. I think I'm taller than definitely taller than my brother. Yeah.
Me and you actually have like a pretty similar build.
Yeah. Well, it was really hard. Like, it's always been hard for me to gain weight. It was hard for me to like build muscle. It was hard for me to I always like, I look at the old pictures, my arms look like two like praying mantis arms.
That was me too. I'm like 6'2", 190.
Yeah.
395.
But once I started hitting my late 20s and I was still eating very poorly, all of a sudden my body's like, oh yeah, we're going to pack this on in all the places you don't want it. So it'd be like I started getting the gut, I started getting like the double chin and the fatness in the face and physically getting sick. I was getting dad bod.
I started getting the dad bod when my wife was pregnant.
Absolutely.
And
I was dad bodding up. But I had built a career off of these 2 dumb songs dedicated to like poor eating choices. And they became youth group anthems. Not that I kept by any means going with it. But the point is that like I just always wrote about anything I was going through, anything that was happening. But I, knew that if I was going to continue on, just from a health standpoint, I had to change.
Right.
I was getting all kinds and plus the road is not healthy. Like it's
no. Now I feel like you have healthier options nowadays.
Absolutely. If you're smarter, absolutely. But I was living a world of youth group pizza, parties and like all this just when you're 20 something and you're a teenager, you can pretty much eat whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And I always had a high metabolism. So it didn't really make a difference. But again, I had to make an honest evaluation of myself. If I want a long career, my physical well-being is going to have to really change.
Right.
And now it's funny too, because even last night, like a guy that I've known for years, right around my same age now, he's like, dude, like you wear me out just watching you. I'm like, well, I have to. Like I'm still competing with people that are half my age, and about maybe 5 to 8 years ago, I started literally training for the stage. I was like, everything I do will be for the stage.
I noticed you have like a lot of fitness stuff on your pledges, and
you had
a couple.
That stuff was more just another option, or like another fan experience. It's funny, like me and this guy DJ Aslan, who is also a pastor, he's a DJ. He came to me a couple years ago, like, dude, how do I get my like life on track? And I said, well, I can't tell you everything, but I can tell you what worked for me. And he just started putting those things into practice. And now he just texts me. He's like, I was at this camp for 9 days. I just lost 2 pounds. I can't believe I did it, man. I'm like, good job, bro. Like we're anyway, point is, health is wealth. And like, yeah.
If you're still able to deal with youth group kids after all these years and put on a show.
Yeah, but it's not even about youth group kids, because that probably still is a portion of my life, and it's never been the only thing I did.
Right.
It's really about just surviving the high level of stuff I have to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I leave tomorrow, I land, I'll probably get in at midnight. I got to get up at 6 a.m. I'll be back, and I got to do the youth service that night, and then I'm back on a plane on Thursday. Like, that just takes a lot of mental, physical toughness.
Yeah. So you just have to be in shape everywhere, pretty much.
It's about having to be able to be endurance, like, and I don't mean like a cross country endurance, but just mental and physical endurance,
fortitude to survive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So, was it hard for you? And I think we did talk a little bit about this off, but was it hard to adapt from where you were selling CDs and being that to just totally deal with streaming and just using the industry for what it is now?
Well, it's weird. About 10 years ago, I used to get a bit frustrated with my audience, like my core buyers, because they were so behind technologically.
Right.
They were like, they wouldn't do downloads. They would not update themselves.
Now you wish they want CDs.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Well, that's what I'm going to tell you. So this is what's weird. So as the industry changed and as Christian bookstores disappeared, as brick and mortar changed, when I transitioned to fully independent like I am now, I still kept selling CDs. Like my fans...
because they were still a couple years behind.
But also they're the same fans that have just followed me as I got older.
Right.
So that they don't really change their format of choice.
Right.
So what has happened is, like, when I do my Kickstarters, my pledge, I'll still move a couple hundred CDs just on that order alone. So, like, if you would have told me I'd be able to move 2,000 CDs of Jonah, the Jonah album, I say you're insane. But I have.
And that's just the first part.
This is the first part. Now, will it be the same this time around? Probably not. Because again, like anything, everybody eventually has to conform to whatever the norm is. But was it hard for me? yes and no. It wasn't so much the format as much as the idea of the album. That's probably where I struggled. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me to go from 17 songs to 15 songs to 15 songs to 13 to 13 to 12 to 12 to 10 to 10 to 8.
Yeah, you used to really pack it on. Like
that's where I struggled. But then now that I know that's the new thing, I absolutely love it.
Well, what was your album's Boy Named Jonah, right?
Yeah, that was like
that had 23 tracks on it.
Well, some of those are skits, and
right. But it's 23 tracks, and then you had the bonus tracks.
Right,
it was like 30 something tracks.
But part of that was the industry too. Like they demanded that. Like your fan base was like,
you have to come out with an album, everyone buys it, and then say, "Oh wait, now I have a deluxe album."
Yeah, that was part of just being creative as things began to change. That's probably what that was. But I'm saying, like, fans did not want short albums. Like,
right.
They wanted 15 songs minimum.
No attention span.
Yeah, now it's the opposite. They want really short projects.
But now what I'm seeing, sorry to cut you off. Now what I'm seeing though is instead of even short projects, people are doing short songs.
Oh yeah,
and I'll get submissions, and it'll be like the track is 2 minutes,
2 minutes, and it might be
a minute and 30,
mostly a chorus.
Yeah, and I'm like, how much shorter are we going to go? we're pretty much going to bring back, like, you're going to have ringtone albums like back in the day. You get that 15-second loop.
I think and again, I'm no prophet, but I think if anything, what you will see is there's always a rubber band effect. So whatever becomes the one side of the rubber band pulling, sooner or later the tension breaks and the rubber band swings to the other side. So I think, why would vinyl of all formats be the only format that keeps selling more every year? It's bulky, it's expensive, it costs more, you can't do anything with it. Why is the most non-conducive format continuing to do better? It's because 20-somethings who never experienced it
want to collect it.
They want to collect it because it's the thing you didn't know. That's the rubber band effect of the 20-year-olds who have grown up in a world that's all digital. And they go, what have I missed? Whereas someone who's 40, who may have grown up with cassettes, vinyl, CDs, digital,
and cassettes
streaming,
are coming back a little bit too.
They're like, I don't see the big deal of this.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It has less to do with the format and probably more to do with we always want what we don't have.
So hang on to that stockpile of CDs you have, because in another 15, 20 years, that might come back.
Probably.
And you might sell out in 20 years.
Probably. It could be my kid who grows up only knowing streaming. When he hits 25, he may want a CD.
He's going to be digging through your CDs.
Or it could be his kid. You know, who knows?
Who's this Vanilla Ice guy? To the Limit CD.
Totally. I mean, there's no way to... The only thing we can predict is that things will always go in cycles.
Right. And
we can always predict that we can never predict anything. But there always tends to be a shift every 20 years. That's usually seems to be the norm. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
So that is a weird challenge for me, because now I have to accommodate so many different fans. Like, there still are really, really young fans that just because of the nature of being Christian rap, they love it. Just because I'm affiliated with this guy, even though, like, they're looking up to me, now it's like a reverse endorsement. So for them, I got to think of streaming. For the 20-somethings, I got to think of vinyl. For the 30-somethings, I got to think of CDs. And the 40-somethings, I got to think of something else.
That just sounds expensive now.
It is expensive, but it's actually a lot of fun. I'll be honest with you. I get very excited with doing that stuff. Like, getting creative with my merch, it really excites me. And now that I'm totally in control, I'm having a blast. I mean,
yeah, that's cool.
I have so much fun with that. That's why music now is a joy for me again.
That's why you keep going.
Yeah. People are like, where do you find inspiration? I'm like, because guys that are my age will be like, I can't get inspired anymore. I'm like, well, then you obviously are not hanging with the right people, because inspiration's everywhere, man.
Okay. So I guess since you were part of two different eras of, I would say, the Christian hip hop world, because you had,
that's true. Yes,
I'd say maybe 2000 to 2010 was much different than even the last
absolutely
3 or 4 years.
Yes.
So what would you say are the major differences, kind of like the before and afters of where you used to be and where you're at now? And not necessarily even like you, just your observations of, the genre and the culture. And
I think probably around 2010, what you actually saw is that the gatekeepers began to change. I came in where the rock world was the gatekeepers, is the best way I can put
It
it.
was the intro, right?
Yeah.
The gateway drug.
Well, no, it was just like everyone that was in charge of things that would really make you either make it or not make it were from the rock world. They came up on, the early Jesus movement rock guys. So they were foreign to anything hip hop related.
Yeah.
Or if they were trying to put it out, they weren't part of the culture. They were doing their best, but they really didn't know how to do it. So we were operating in a world that didn't understand us. They may have wanted a slice of the pie, but they did not understand us. So long story short, basically that's why there was so much trial and error and more error.
Yeah.
Probably what started to happen around 2010, there was just a changing of the guard. So when I say the gatekeepers, I'm talking about the pastors. I'm talking about key leaders in high positions. I'm talking about people at radio. I'm talking about people that are promoters. All the people that really honestly hold the keys.
Right.
Nowadays, they have less keys. But like I said, that's what started to happen. So because there was just an age range change, we kind of started to take over.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's the main thing, was the acceptance level. Like, I was having to make a lot of concessions on the front end of my career. I was having to dumb down, or whatever you want to call it, sell out, whatever you want to label it. I was having to do that for survival. Post 2010, you had to do less and less of that. But really what happened is Christian hip hop became its own separate world. It's like CCM went one way, Christian rap went the other way, and the two things did not diverge. Then CCM goes, "We need your help. Can you come back and help us?"
And especially with rock too. Rock kind of died out.
And yeah,
so it's either you're like a Carrie Job,
worship,
CCM, or worship
and hip hop were the only two
hip-hop.
things. Were the only two things with any momentum. That's exactly what began to happen. That's the best way you could put it. And now to this day, that's all there is.
Right.
That's the dominant thing. It's what I saw rock was when I came in.
Right. Now rock's the one who's like, hey,
absolutely,
check us out.
Absolutely. Like, I feel bad for anybody that's a rock band right now. Like,
and now the rock guys are probably going to the hip hop artists to try to get features for there.
If they can even survive. A lot of them are out of the picture. They can't, just from a financial standpoint,
indie or they're just,
they can't survive because you have 3 to 4 people you're trying to make work. Rap by nature is less cost. Yeah, it's less cost to it. So therein lies the problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not only are you less popular, you cost more.
Yeah, you're splitting profits with 4, 5, 6 guys. Yeah. You have a ton of gear. You need roadies. You need
stuff. A million things.
Right.
So, and then you're splitting the pie 4 ways. It's like, dude, you just can't make it, man. So, that's a big thing. Because that's where everything hangs on, the amount of acceptance level. There are always going to be artists that defy the acceptance level, but I'm just saying the acceptance level was the big problem. That was the big problem.
So how different do you think your career would be had you come into it in 2010?
Night and day. I mean, I would hope that talent would always rise above.
Right.
But talent...
Well, what do you think you would have done differently? If you were just...
If I came in now?
If you were just allowed... So what were you when in 2000? You were in your mid-20s, right? So say you were 25, now starting to rap in 2010, coming into Christian hip-hop. What do you think your career path would have been?
Well, okay, so it's easy to be like, yo, it was the world was so empty when you came in, and da-da-da-da. It's like, no, it really was still crowded. It's just where now people are trying to get a viral hit.
Right.
Then you were trying to get a record deal. Both were probably just as unlikely to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So
I don't know if the odds were any different then that they are now. The purposes might have been different. I don't know. I mean, maybe if I had the same hustle and the same drive and the same sort of sensibilities, maybe I would do fine now too. Maybe the music would sound infinitely different. How it would be played out might be different. I don't know. I can't deny that me coming along at the time when Eminem came along played into my success. No question.
Mm-hmm.
But who's to say that something else like that wouldn't have happened now?
You would be coming in with Macklemore.
Yeah. I mean, there's no telling. I don't know. Like, I have to believe that the man who delights his heart in the Lord, he guides his steps. So that's all I can say. I think me coming in, I mean, again, the goal was never just to have a record deal. The goal was actually just to really reach people. And I felt like God guided me along that way. So I would hope that same thing would translate now.
Do you think your, like, content-wise, what do you think about your music? Because I know, like, the earlier music, like you said, was sort of appealing to where you were trying to go. Do you think that music would fly as much now?
The content?
Right, like a song, let's just say like a song like 5-2. It's pronounced 5-2, which is a fun song.
Would fun translate now?
Right, with some of the... Or like the Coke fried cheeseburger
But see, again, those things happened after me coming out and trying to do really legitimate rap to the time of the time.
But do you think that really legitimate rap that you came in with, do you think that would have worked out for you now? Instead of having you like to change your style a little bit?
I think, okay, the best way I could describe it was when I first came out, I was only showing you 30% of who I was.
Right.
Because the other 70%, either I was too insecure to show, or I was playing by the rap rules that you weren't supposed to show, or maybe there was just a bit of like I was hinting at it and I did not know how to do it. You know what I'm saying? That maybe circumstances held it back, or just the fact that you're young and you're just trying to figure it out as you're going along.
Right.
I think what happened, say 4 years later, is I had made a conscious choice to go hell or high water, good, bad, or ugly. I'm going to give you 100% of me, and I knew that would turn a certain percentage off, especially fans that have been rocking already. But I was like, you know what? I knew that there was way more people that it would bring in. So that was just more about having an honest evaluation of the market, an honest evaluation of those that were connecting with me. And that's probably something that most artists just never do. They're never honest about themselves. You know what I mean?
Where they kind of create like this character, and that becomes their brand, and they can't deviate.
And then as soon as they start to, that's when they see the problems. Now, again, it was like a switching of the guard, but I exchanged one thing for something else that was a bigger thing. Because again, I knew that the Christian rap world was it was so tiny and not self-sufficient that, again, I was also being honest about myself. I knew as a white male, there was just certain rules placed on me that you could call them white privilege or not privilege. It depends how you look at it. You could say it's a black privilege and not a white privilege.
Right.
I just knew that I had to play by those rules to an extent. And I could use those rules to my advantage or disadvantage. It was all in what I did with it.
Now, look at a guy like, apparently the guy that you always bite now, NF.
Right.
He's got like this brand, this serious, mysterious, throw all the eeriuses at the end of it.
Right.
And that's what he is. And he'll never make a funny song, or he'll never make
How
something
do you know
like
that? You don't know that.
But I'm saying the way his brand is now.
Right.
He might be the funniest guy you ever met, but when you listen to his music, you're like, has this guy ever smiled before?
Right.
But so you kind of just threw that out the window, and you said, I'm going to be serious. I'm also going to be funny. I'm going to hit you in the feels with something.
Right.
I'm going to do a little bit of this. And I think the album I mentioned before, the story of Jonah, that is a very up and down album as far as like hitting on the full spectrum of where you're at.
But see, I would also counter that and say, I think I always did that. I just maybe didn't do it to the same nth degree. You know what I'm saying? Because even if you look at Seventh Ave, which again, people go, you were real back then. It's like, there's a DC Talk remake on that album. There is a Popcorn Beans and Rice, which is a stupid spoofy song. There is skits. There is lyrical stuff.
There's your Carmen song.
There's the Carmen rap rock song. Like, maybe the blueprint was still there. Maybe it wasn't as developed, But I can tell, again, it's all about perception. If this song hits you at a certain point of your life, or this album hits you, you're going to be blinders to whatever you want to see to it. That's all it comes down to. And I, as an artist, can never convince you otherwise. Now, did I maybe look at it and go, oh, out of 15 songs, this one group that is going to pay my bills are gravitating to these 3 type of songs? Did I now go, it makes more sense for me to put my eggs in that basket? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I never exchanged completely one thing for another. Because people go, like even now, I'll see people go, yo, man, I hated your music for 7 years because you never did music like this. I'm like, yeah, I did. You just weren't paying attention. I can go back to any album and pick out the same type of song. If people just think all of a sudden I became lyrical now, it's like, no, I've always done lyrical stuff. You just stopped paying attention because of this thing. And that's just the nature of music. You will eventually drop off.
And that's also kind of the singles syndrome, where most of the time the singles aren't representative of the artist at all. But that's going to be that's going to be the hook that grabs people.
Absolutely.
And most of the time, they're not as good as the album cuts.
But see, I think that's all relative.
That is relative.
It's all relative. In my opinion, the way I look at music now, there is no good music, there's no bad music. There's just effective music and non-effective music. And good and bad is completely relative. So that's just the way I look at it. And if something is effective and you say it's bad, I actually go, why is it effective? It's not bad. Bad is all relative. It's like food. You may hate hummus. I love hummus. Is there good and bad hummus? Absolutely. But hummus is a very specific taste. You go, hummus sucks. Well, it sucks to you because it's not your palate. It doesn't mean it's poorly done. Now, there could be badly done hummus. It's ineffective.
KJ, your hummus 7 years ago sucked.
Exactly.
You're making great hummus now. What changed? Your taste buds changed.
That is, you know what? That is so accurate. That's very accurate.
I did tell you that I do enjoy food, so that analogy or that metaphor came.
Music
very
is
quickly.
100% food. There's no question. Music is food.
I'm in the right business.
Yeah, music is absolutely food because the analogies of food, you can eat very refined, gourmet food, and other people can go, I just want a burger.
Right.
You can be into very avant-garde, refined, lyrical music, and other people go, I just want stupid pop songs.
So you're a MF Doom or you're a Flow Rider.
Absolutely. And you know what? Some people are both.
And those people, we don't talk to them. It's like, how could you like this guy and this guy? Well, I love Wu-Tang, but I also love Iggy Azalea. And you're just like, all right. People like what they like. All right, so for you, what do you feel is your biggest success as an artist? And if you can pinpoint one moment where you felt like this was your most rock star moment as an artist.
I don't think I can ever do that because that puts too much emphasis on the moment. And
Right.
if I ever stayed stuck in a moment, I wouldn't be here right now. My success is every day effectively doing what I do in a professional manner, in a godly manner, in a way that reaches people. Like, that's my success. Now, is there little moments that certainly are like they're like road signs all along the trip?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe my first Dove Award obviously was a sense of like accomplishment because the amount of sacrifice it took to get it.
What'd you get the Dove Award for? What song?
I think it was Pronounced 5-2.
The song.
The album.
The album.
Yeah.
How many do you have?
I have 6.
Ah.
Yeah, no one ever gets that number right.
Well, now we know. Did you accept all of them? Were you there to accept all of them?
I was there to accept all of them, yep.
You didn't do the cool rapper thing and just not show up?
No. I did, however.
We have it via satellite. We have a pre-recorded message.
The last one I won, can I tell you the last one I won?
Yeah.
I was cleaning out my merch locker in Nashville, Tennessee. Because I was done using it and it had been someone else using it. And I had just literally unloaded an entire storage unit of merch, thrown it into a rental van, changed my clothes, driving to the Doves. I was covered in sweat, disgusting. Pulled up just at the moment as they announced it, ran on and grabbed it. And I thought, this is the most unglamorous thing I've ever done. Like, if people knew that I was literally sweating to death in 80-degree weather and changed my pants in my car, they would have a whole nother perspective.
How was your speech?
I was like, thanks everybody.
You went, okay.
And the thing was,
wiping the sweat.
I'll tell you,
he must be really nervous up there.
Do you know who was actually in the audience? This is what made it funny. Was Fizzle and his manager, and they were like the loud, obnoxious parents at the prom, or at like your high school graduation.
Yeah.
Like, no, it wasn't like any like huge vivacious cheer because the Dove Awards never broadcast
the hip hop.
They never broadcast hip hop, so like it was in a side room. It wasn't even the regular room. So it was pretty quiet. And they're like, yeah, my boy, yeah. I was like, I'm so embarrassed, guys. So please don't do that.
What'd you win it for? What was that one?
I don't even remember. It was probably whatever my last hurrah as the CCM.
What's funny?
I really don't remember.
What's funny is I interviewed Stephen Wiley. So you want to talk about the gatekeeper of Christian hip hop, Stephen Wiley, and he told me a story. Going to the Dove Awards in 1989, 1990, they didn't even have it.
No, they didn't even have the category. Yeah, they really got shafted.
So they were just merged in with gospel,
right?
And he was telling me it was like him and Toby Mac and P, when Toby Mac was a rapper,
right? Also
not KJ52,
right?
And PID and all these guys just together, and they would sit and they would talk about, the future of Christian hip hop and where they think it was going. I can just imagine this at this Waffle House that's in Nashville that I went to.
Yeah.
That's next to the La Quinta. So, so you've come a long way. You've definitely come a long way.
Yeah, but you know what? I actually remember I went to the Doves in 1996 on a fake press pass and sat in the press room when a group won for the rap category. That wasn't even a rap group. They were called Church of Rhythm. And I was so livid, and they think I'm like part of the press, and I was like, "Hey, why do you feel like you deserve to win this when there's other rap groups?" And the guy's answer was like, "I don't know, like our next rap album won't really be this much rap." I'm like, you're not even rap to begin with. Like, That's when they used to combine it with dance, and like groups that had nothing to do with rap would like keep winning it. So I sat in the audience as a frustrated person.
And Wiley told me that too. I think when they finally did add hip hop, the first group that won the hip hop Dove Award was like the Winans.
Right.
It was like the offshoot.
Right.
So basically they just said, urban or gospel.
Right.
That's hip hop.
Well, can I tell you, like the first year I won was the first year they finally got rid of the dance category.
Yeah, because who's making dance music anyway?
Yeah, in like 2002, no one had been doing that anymore. And it was a guy at Goatee Records finally got it eliminated from the category. But I'm not the first one to ever win a rapper that ever won a Dove Awards. Like Grits had won before me. But I started to get this weird backlash to like, oh, they're just giving it to the white guy now. Like I got articles written about me. I got podcasts done about me. Like
I was writing back then, I might have been one of those guys.
Dude, I became the whipping boy for all things that were wrong with Christian rap. You know what I mean? Like, you don't deserve to win that because Cross Movement should have won it. You didn't deserve to win that because Lecrae should have won it. Like, it was like Macklemore when he won over Kendrick.
Right. But it's not your fault. It's not like you voted for yourself.
No.
And it's not like you campaigned either.
People did not even understand how the whole process went. Like, but it is what it is.
Voting's all label based, right? Labels have their votes in there.
Block voting back then.
That's just like the Oscars and the actual Grammys, and you're like, why do these people keep winning and they suck? No, they just have a lot of things going for them behind the scenes.
But see, for me, the thing was, it was more about my wife had made so many sacrifices. We had made so many sacrifices to finally just be acknowledged and to have her there next to me when it happened. That was the validation. That's all I wanted. You know what I mean? Because we had gone through so much. I mean, like, we lived out of a van for 4 months. We ate potluck. We got our apartment evicted. Like, we got my car repossessed. Like, we went in debt, $10,000. Like, every step of the way, we went through this to get to that point. And I will tell you, like, one of my times I did win, I thanked every Christian rapper that went before me. My speech was thanking the PIDs and the Stephen Wileys and the ETWs and I dedicated it to them tonight. And I said, y'all should have. These are the ones that really deserve this. And like 3 people clapped because nobody even understood the reference, but it is what it is.
Who's Stephen Wiley?
Exactly.
Stephen Wiley was very cool to speak to, actually.
I'm sure he was.
All right, so that's your success. So what do you think is your biggest failure and or regret that you would have for your career? And I feel like you're not someone who really has regrets.
I don't have many regrets.
So, yeah.
But I think the only one I might really have is like I didn't do a. I said this is kind of a stupid thing to say, but not doing an email list. You know, it was just a dumb thing I didn't like pay attention to. I don't have any other regrets besides that.
Has there been any big like failure or flop that you that?
I mean,
happened
yeah,
in
but
your
I
career?
don't look at those things as
You're more of like it's a learning experience.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
just
like
move on.
every stumbling block can be a stepping stone. Like I don't think I've ever really. I've been very careful to do what I do, and that's kind of where I've been at. You know what I mean? I don't think I've ever really. I feel like the guy jumping out of the window. I have no regrets. I really don't. I honestly, I really don't. I don't. I don't think I've treated people badly. I feel good about like my relationships in the industry. I feel good about my. I mean, there's artistic regrets, absolutely. Like, is there songs that I look back and went like, I broke my own rules, like the rules I said I never do. I shouldn't have done that, you know. But hindsight's 2020, man. Like, you know, I don't really have any regrets.
All right. Well, since you said that, what's the worst song in your opinion that you ever wrote?
Worst song.
Like actual song, maybe not like not like one of those skits or something, like actual song.
I think there's a song called, and I know a lot of people love this song, but a song called "I'm Guilty" off of Pronounced 5-2.
Is that the one? It's like the judge and
the reason why I regret that is because the music of it is literally ripped from Nas's of a Nas song.
That
yeah.
I didn't. Now that you're telling me that, now I hear it.
Now, is that necessarily my fault or the producer's fault? It's kind of Todd's fault, to be honest with you, but it's my fault for permitting it. You see what I'm saying? Like, I could have been more hands-on and said, dude, this is just a bite. Like, I come from the area, you don't bite. Now, did I want the emotion of the Nas song? I wanted to build emotion and break down emotion. There's a way to do that without it being like verbatim. You see what I'm saying? You can. It's that fine line between like inspiration and just duplication. You know what I'm saying? And in my opinion, we did duplication. Now, did the average person that listened to it ever catch that? No. But me as a hip hop artist that lives by a code,
right?
I broke my code.
So for you, that's your worst song.
I can't say it's my worst song. I'm just saying I can definitely tell you it's something that that's
a regret.
Yeah, there's no, like, listen, I'll tell you, almost all of us go, I want to do a song like this, but the smart ones of us know how to do it in a way that we draw inspiration from it. We don't just copy it.
Did you perform that song live?
Never.
Because of that reason?
Nah, it just wasn't. It wasn't really a live song to do. It wasn't a live song to do. You know, that's the other thing.
Crowd killer.
Listen, I was rapping for white kids with zero rhythm and just very little knowledge of the industry. So, like, I had to skew my live show to compensate for their lack of abilities.
All right. So just you screaming, "God forgive me, I'm guilty," was probably not the best route.
Honestly, it was more of a tempo thing. Certain tempos would just kill the white kid crowds. They could not rock to it.
That's a thing now. The white kid crowds.
Well, it's honestly, I mean, if that's who you're playing for 90% of your shows, like, you have to be cognizant that you have to rock that crowd. So there would be artistic things that I would have to do, or even musical things that I would do, just for the sake of knowing that who the audience would be. Now that's all changed now, but again, you know, now I would have people come up to go, dude, I gave my life to Christ because of that song. You know, people would go, that song got me when I needed to hear it. You know, yeah, and again, same thing with like Coke Fried Cheeseburger or Mountain Dew or any of those like
Mullet song.
The Mullet song, actually, I don't regret that song because I think that was a song where I literally made it as bad as possible.
Well, that was on purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You know, like the guy who played the guitar for it, he was tuning his guitar while I did it. And he goes, "Oh, okay, I'm done tuning." I'm like, "No, we're done. You're not going to tune your guitar." He's like, "What?" Like, no, that's the take. It has to sound bad. Like, you know, so I don't mind with that. But like, you know, a lot of them has to do with production. Like I look back and go, "Oh, the sonics of this is just too thin," or it's like we could have done better on it. But the way I fix that now is I just update it. I'll do it over a beat that I like better. You know what I mean? That I think is better. But the worst song, I'll be honest with you, Sole Purpose, I phoned in the lyrics on that record. Like I had so much going on. Me as a person that tries to write things.
Yeah, and that was like in the middle of like 2 other projects, right?
Yeah, I had so many things going on. I was phoning in the lyrics, which to me breaks my code. Like my code is you put thought and creativity into your content. I know songs on all my records where I phoned it in, where I was just trying to get the song done. You know, instead of taking the time to really, you know.
A lot of Sole Purpose is like choruses. Really?
Yeah, and that was the idea. And you know, Todd was like, just focus on the choruses, and but that was the time where I was enjoying so much success that Brandon was just handing out record deals like candy. So I'm like, all right, sure, I'll take it because it was a totally separate record deal.
Right.
So I know it's more my own nature. Like I put so much pressure on myself that if I don't give 100%, I know when I haven't given 100%. And Sole Purpose, I didn't give 100% because I couldn't. I was touring. I was doing 2 side projects at the same time. I was working on the next project.
The next project
me and Todd were not
the rock project, wasn't it?
I think actually it was the other way around. I think Peace of Mind was first, and then Sole Purpose. You know, but again, you have to have these moments where you drop the ball to make you go, next time around, I better do better. You know what I mean? But again, there was so little Christian rap out. That was another reason. I was like, I need to put more music in the marketplace.
You could have won a Dove Award for Sole Purpose, the way things were going.
We were nominated for one.
You were.
Yes. I'm like, I cannot win this. Please don't. Like, that's the only record where we actually stopped the production of CDs on it.
So the copy I have is rare, maybe.
I mean,
I
we stopped it.
I might have a Christian bookstore one. That
we stopped it, I think, at 15,000 copies. We effectively killed the record. Because that's pre-downloads. I mean, I'm sure you could download it, but I'm just saying nobody was downloading.
I should have brought it for you to sign. Worth money.
Look, I was embarrassed of that record. I was embarrassed of the artwork. I was embarrassed. I mean, Todd loves it. And can I just tell you, my biggest placement
in Australia, right?
is on a Vitamin ad from that stupid album. Like, I made more money off one song on that record than I probably made off any song.
Do you still get some residuals for it?
No, because it's a one-time thing. Yeah. But I'm just saying, the point is like, and then some random guy in Oklahoma, like, picks me up for a show, and, like, he goes, I just want you to know I got in a major car accident. I was going to die, and that song got me through my therapy. I'm like, what am I going to say? What do you say to that?
You never know.
Yeah, but that record sucks. Like, who?
I phoned that in, but I'm glad.
I'm glad it touched, you know? I mean, like, dude, you can't corral that stuff.
All right, so what about on the other side? What do you think is your most perfect, flawless song?
I couldn't say that either. Like,
I know,
huh?
Too many good babies in your head?
It's not that. I would just have to say, is there songs that lyrically I feel like, yeah, I wrote it exactly how I wanted to? Absolutely. I could name a ton. But I would have to also look back and go, Dear Slim and Dear Slim 2 are very pivotal.
Because of the importance of your career.
Like, I can't negate how those songs changed my situation.
And you know, that's another thing, that if you came out in 2010, you never get a Dear Slim.
Right. But then again, maybe I would have Dear Macklemore. Who knows? You know what I mean?
You'd be writing to Encore Eminem, who wasn't on drugs.
You're absolutely right. But you know what? Look, and it sounds weird to talk about myself like in the third person, but if there's anything I could say I did right, is the fact that I was never scared to do what other people were scared to do. Nobody was writing songs to Eminem in that sense. No one was writing a song to a secular rapper and effectively like putting it all out there. Because they were all too scared or didn't have enough wherewithal to think of that. Now it could be very commonplace to do that. I'm not saying I was the first one by any means, by no means. I'm just saying if there's anything I've done right, is that I've always been willing to go not just 100%, 150%.
And just give it a shot.
Where most of my peers will probably go 70%.
That's why you're still here.
Yeah.
Live.
Look, and
dead.
I'll be honest with you, I never considered myself the most talented. I never considered myself the most having all the raw things, but I always knew hard work will what's the phrase? Hard work outworks talent when talent won't work hard.
It's a tongue twister.
Hard work beats talent when talent won't work hard, or something like that. It's just, the point is that I knew my hard work ethic could make up for what I lacked. My willingness to think outside of the box, where most of my guys were very easy, I just never played it safe.
Right.
You know?
So with that being said, as someone who almost won a Dove Award for Sole Purpose, but had a hit in Australia, has had their music heard by Eminem, has been slammed on VH1, has
body slam,
has seen and done it all. Like, what is left? What do you feel is left for you to do in your career? What's like something else you'd want to accomplish?
I never had, like, that's not the way I ever really looked at it. I didn't look, I got to do this, this, and this. I never had a bucket list. Right. It was just, if you keep doing what you do every day and you do it well and you do it consistently, those things that people look as bucket lists will just happen. So I don't really have anything that I want to accomplish per se. The best thing I can accomplish is what is right in front of me right now. You know what I mean? Be a good dad, be a good husband, be a good steward of my finances, be a good, have artistic integrity, be a good minister. If I just keep doing those things, the other stuff just by sheer nature will happen.
Since you do have an album that recently came out, can you, maybe talk a little bit about Jonah Part 2? And you're currently on tour for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm always on tour.
You're always touring.
Yeah, I haven't done like a traditional tour in years, but I've always played out. That's just, honestly, when I left youth pastoring a bunch of inner city hood kids, I left it because I wanted to be on the road sharing the gospel through hip hop. Like, that was always the desire. Whether the records happen or not, that was like secondary. But yeah, man, like, basically, the guy came to me about doing the documentary, and I thought that's kind of an odd thing. Like, how much of my, it's a very specific fan base would only want to fund that or see that. So I was like, if I just do a documentary, I'm only going to have this level of success. People always want new music. So I thought, what if we combine this as two things? We do a deluxe version or bonus songs. Then I realized, like, doing a deluxe version in 2018 makes no sense. Like,
right.
That's stupid. You're just, again, I just listen to the fans. I ask the fans questions. I listen to what they say. I gauge their temperature. I try to serve them the best I can. And they're like, we want a new project. So then I was like, okay, well then it's easier for me to do what I feel is like the continuation of what the project was. Because 8 songs is dumb small,
Yeah.
So that's basically what just happened. And it was pretty effortless. Like, it wasn't, music does not feel like work anymore. It feels like what it was when I was a kid. Like, it's just your expression now. I just do it better and smarter because I have more experience. But that's really what it came down to. Like, super effortless, and like, now I don't have to try and hit the whole nation. I'm just trying to satisfy my tribe.
Right.
That's it. Like, music stopped being fun when you had 1,000 people in your pocket. You know what I mean? That's when you're making concessions and you're doing things for these people. You're like,
now you're just doing it for yourself.
Well, I'm doing it for the people that appreciate it, which I guess is myself. But I don't have to do all the concessions I used to do. Like, I can just rap for the sake of rapping. Like, and people get it. Like, that's where I started.
So you've come full circle.
Absolutely.
And your final thought. So what would be your major key for the survival?
Word to Khaled, I guess, right?
For the survival of the artist in 2018.
I mean, I don't think the basics of anything has ever changed. I think my personal philosophy has always been listen to God and listen to people. If you do those two things, you will never not succeed. If you listen to what the people are telling you to do, in the sense of like what they want style-wise and aesthetically and stuff like that, and if you listen to what God is showing you and speaking into you and constantly birthing in you, and you combine those two things, you'll always hit the mark. You know, how it plays out specifically is a big thing, but you'll always hit the mark. That's the only thing that's kept me going. You know what I mean? Like those two things. Listen to God, listen to people, and you'll be okay.
And how much longer are you going to keep going?
You know, it's funny, like, the best way I can compare this to, because I used to run track, is when you're running a track race, you reach a point in that run. There's two things that happen. You either reach a point before you finish the line where you're like, dude, I just want to finish the line. I just want to cross the finish line and collapse. The other way you can run is you cross the finish line and you go, dang, I could like run some more.
Yeah.
There was a point in my life where I was just trying to cross the finish line. That was like, oh, if I'm still at 35 and I'm doing it, I cross the finish line, I'm good. Oh, if I'm still at 30, I'll da-da-da. What's happened now is I've crossed the finish line and I got plenty of gas left. So when someone goes, well, when are you going to stop? I'm like, I don't know. I was supposed to stop back then. You know, now I'm just like, I'm in bonus level or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean?
The deluxe part of the album.
It's almost like I finished the race and then I found a whole nother trail off to the side. And now it's brand new territory. And I'm just running for the sheer enjoyment of what running feels like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So maybe there's an end to that trail somewhere. But I came up in an era where they told you had to pick. You can either do this or you can do the music. You got to pick the two. You cannot do both. What has actually happened now is the whole new world, the whole generation underneath me goes, you never need to pick. Because they don't know any different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The only people that ever criticize my appearance or my status level or where I'm at in the industry are guys a little bit younger than me. You see what I'm saying?
And in 20 years, they probably wish that they even made it 5 years.
Sometimes I wonder if they're projecting their insecurities onto me.
Right.
Because it's like the people that you think should be criticizing you never do. They're just like, yeah, man, works for me. It's like those that like are a little frustrated and a little bit younger, maybe 5-10 years younger. They're the ones that have the most criticism. And I realize like they have no bearing on me. Like, so at this point, I'm like, it is what it is.
I feel like do your kids still think you're cool?
Yeah,
like when like if someone asks your kids like, oh, what does your dad do? They're like, he's a rapper.
No embarrassment.
So then you're good.
Once
they hit an age where they're like, oh, my dad's a rapper.
Right.
He's like 55.
Right.
Like then you have to stop. Probably.
I don't even know if it's an age thing. I think it would be more like, can they bring their friends to me and not be embarrassed of me?
Right.
Because you could be 55 and
you can be Dr. Dre
and be totally cool to that kid. It really comes down. It's so individualistic.
Right.
So like, absolutely, my kids think what I do is super cool, but I don't think it's because it's nature of being a rapper. It's just that maybe it's the sincerity of what I do, or that there's no errors, or if anything, I'm the one that always downplays it.
Right.
You know. So I don't know. I know a lot of guys my age with kids that their kids are not embarrassed of their parents. But it probably has to do with the way their parents disseminate their relationships with them.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're actively involved in their lives and like, you know. Actually, it's funny you say this. I just had this conversation with a guy. I've known him for a long time. He used to rap quite a bit. Now he's a pastor. He's struggling with what he wants to do musically. His son raps. Son is of the new generation style-wise. Mm-hmm. And his dad will get on his case about the new style. And I'm like, you have to stop doing that. You cannot look with 20/20 vision back on our past and go, it was better when we did it. The same problems were there. You know what I mean?
They probably both think each other are whack.
I mean, part of it's just yeah.
But it's also the relationship of a father and son.
Absolutely. And be honest, have I ever done that too? Of course. Look, I went into my son's Instagram. I saw some of the people he was following. I'm like, you're not following him. He sucks. He can't rap. I started unfollowing all these people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was wrong. I had to go back to my son and go, you know what? I'm sorry for doing that. We should discuss this together.
And let me explain to you why they suck.
But I realized,
I'll leave you the choice of
like that was my natural inclination, but I pulled it back really fast, and I apologize. Fathers do not exasperate your children. Yeah, do I just let him run willy-nilly with what he wants to do? Of course not. But you get way farther in discussing and talking than
putting the hammer down.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah, man. Great
KJ52, put the hammer down.
Hammer down.
This
hammer
was
time.
Survival of the Artist podcast, episode 4. Live, not dead, in a hotel in Newark.
We're alive.
With King J Mac himself. Thanks for listening, everyone. KJ, thanks, man.
Thank you, sir.
Good to finally do this in person.
Yeah, man.
Peace.